Welcome to Orate, an intermission video between Love Part 1 and Love Part 2. Thank you for joining me on my journey and allowing me to share with you my Gnostic revelation. I want to take this chance to explain a little bit about what the heck I mean by that. So I've been reading from a script in my past videos, and with the camera angles and such, I was trying to get it to look as natural as possible. The script helps me keep authentic to the least amount of words possible to share the idea or experience that I'm trying to relay. So if you want a little bit more natural conversation, I was a guest on my friend Daniel Moler's podcast, Psychonaut Sessions, and I'll link down below. He is the wonderful author of these amazing comic books, so check that out on his website, danielmoler.com, as well as what I'm attempting to do with this channel is to build a curriculum. I may at some point write books. I may at some point create my own tarot deck. And I'll get into kind of what that looks like. But this vlog style sharing on my channel Orate is my way of bringing through all of the generations before me that I have access to, their wisdom through me into the spirit of my generation. And I believe that's what my buddy Daniel Moler has done in this book, Shamanic Qabbalah. So Daniel Moler and I went through the Pachacudi Mesa tradition apprenticeship. This is a lineage from Don Oscar Miracasada. Both Daniel Moler and I went through our teacher Daniel Baxley's lodge for the year and a half for that process. We also went through, he acted as leader and took us through a tradition called the pathworking of the Qabbalah, which I'll go into later. It has a rich tradition of history, and it's kind of the working of, if you want to gain the wisdom from religion or these ancient teachings and put it into practice in your own life, the pathworking is one way to do it. So his book, The Shamanic Qabbalah, is a really wonderful journey for this generation, for us to get insight to what the ancients are talking about and how that is practical to our life. So all of that will be linked down below. I want to start my intermission video by entertaining you with a poem that I wrote in high school. To trust, respect, and feel a fire, to know a person's deep desire, to love and want eternally, to know all this is meant to be, to see, hear, feel the beauty of, all this together means true love. So why did I pick, first of all, the form or medium of poetry, and second of all, those words to describe love? I could have gone with Webster or a million other ways to define it, but poetry, or the words of an individual's expression of experience, can sometimes hold more potent value than didactic knowledge. This is twofold. Our conscious minds are one part of the equation going on, and our conscious minds are mostly concerned with this drop comp idea that I'm about to get into in Love Part 2, the reality as we possess knowledge of moments past. So, in the reflection of moments, our conscious mind builds knowledge, wisdom, tradition, stories, shares beauty, pain, all of the depths or spectrum of life. And we do this maybe not always consciously, but as a function to share with others what it means to live. Another way to put it, the ancient Greeks said, know thyself. So to have a full, more rich expression of how we experience self can be very valuable, even in our very material world today. This is a wonderful chart. I brought up earlier the path working of the Qabbalah. So the next portion of this video will be a didactic lesson of breath working or ritual that I've learned from my father, but from a tradition that is kind of the Western version or tradition of a knowledge that comes through dynastic Egypt, from what I can understand, through Melchizedek, this very interesting character, through Abraham, and then into all of the Abrahamic religions. So if you're atheist or ichtheist or anything, approach this as science, as scientific method. And this breath work that I'm about to share with you, if you would like to study it rather than actually practice it, that's fine. And that serves one purpose. Another purpose would also be to perform it or practice it or imagine it or bring it to life within your own experience. So without going on too much, because this is definitely many videos going through the path working of the Qabbalah or the shamanic tradition and the teachings that I learned there, this video and the two-part ritual that I'm about to teach you and perform for you is called the Qabalistic Cross and the interwoven light technique. And I chose this because this was taught to me in a way that I'm not really able to find verbatim in books. And that's because my dad, John Nichols, he had already at that point when I was a teenager and was learning this knowledge, absorbed by doing the path workings himself, this wisdom, and put it in his own way. And so he was teaching me his own way. So rather than me teach what I'm finding in any books or really stick to any one tradition, I'm going to teach the most recent thoughts I have about this very valuable tool. So the Qabalistic Cross is something you've very much seen Catholics or others mimic. It's this gesture here, and why there's a variance of which shoulder comes first is best demonstrated by the Qabbalah tree of life. So that's this poster here. So all of these Sephra, and even though you can't see Malkuth down here, it's where we're all living, so it doesn't need to be in frame. It's everything we've all known. So there's a world down there, and that's Trop Comp. That's the world as we experience it. There's moments down in Malkuth too, but it's mostly what we reflect and what we live our lives upon is this world of Malkuth, the kingdom, by the way. So it's a beautiful place. And the most important part of this diagram is the words of Dion Fortune. Kether is the Malkuth of the unmanifest, and you don't have to understand that. That'll just come up from time to time. So, the Qabalistic Cross. If I am standing in the place of creation, in the place of the divine, in the place of the progenitive force, whatever words you wish to use, then I will be standing with this diagram, like as if I'm in front of it, right? So I will be going Ate, Malkut, Vegabura on my right, Vegadula on my left, Leolam, Amen. Now, if I wish to stand and face the progenitive force, the creative force, whatever words you wish to use, or in the Catholic tradition, the priest is standing in the place of the divine, and the congregation would be standing facing the priest or facing the divine. In that case, you'd go Ate, Malkuth, Vegadula on my left, Vegabura on my right, Leolam, Amen. So a little bit about these words. Ate is not a word. As far as I can research, there was a spelling error. Atah, A-T-A-H, or possibly Ato, A-T-O-H. This is obviously using English letters to describe a Hebrew word. Is a more appropriate spelling or pronunciation for the Hebrew. That the definition I like best is thou art. So if we go through the English of, and I'm just going to say Ate, I love Ate, feel free to say Ata, Ato, whatever you want. Kether, you're speaking of the crown, so, Kether is this top Sephra. Ate, Ata, Ato, whatever. So the English, thou art the kingdom, the power, the glory, forever to creation. Now, power and glory are going to switch depending on which way you are facing and which way you pronounce first. In this technique, the middle portion, I'm going to be doing the Qabalistic Cross facing divinity. Then I'm going to be doing what is called the interwoven light, and then I'll be doing the Qabalistic Cross as divinity. This is not anything I learned in a book. This is just my most recent interpretation of this tool. And what this symbolizes for me is if there are two different power dynamics, I can take advantage of that by acting in the place of my personality self and facing my divine self. And then I could kind of, in a way, concretize myself or fill myself with spiritual light or just allow myself, open myself up to divinity or creation. And then do the Qabalistic Cross, step into the power of the place of the divine. So if that is considered blasphemous to you, that's why I would say that you're tithing at your church. Without further ado, I would like to perform for you the Qabalistic Cross and interwoven light. Oh, I need to explain the interwoven light. Yes. It would make zero sense if I just performed it, because the interwoven light is all imagination. And you're just going to see me breathing. What I'm doing, and I'm going to write this down in the description, is draw, the very first is to, the purpose of the Qabalistic Cross is to kind of define this relationship. Our imagination, our mind's eye, is being used somewhat as a sensory organ in these rituals, but we are to picture a completely black open space, infinite. We can define it within the confines of our room or the confines of an apartment and still picture it as an infinite space, to hold the powerful energy to a defined place. But it's best to picture the blackness as infinite. And we are standing within the center or defined center of this dark space and picturing the purest, fuzziest, most harmonizing, buzziest white light that we can picture as a ball, either in the center of the earth, or we can just have the ball right underneath our feet. And in the Qabalistic Cross, we're drawing this light. We're starting out at the kingdom, so you can picture the light coming from the divine. In the interwoven light, you really want to picture the light coming from below your feet. But you can draw in the Qabalistic Cross the white light from the divine. Ate, thou art, or the crown, Malkuth, the kingdom, foundation. And you're doing this cross energy within, just to represent the human body, and fill the human body with light. So within the interwoven light, you start, and the first 3 breaths, everything gets repeated 3 times. Your in breath will come up the outside of your right, the outside of the right side of your body, and up to your head. And on your out breath, it's going to go down the left side of your body, on the outside, down back to your feet, down into the ball. And each time the light passes, you're going to picture your body, which starts out kind of black like the landscape. Picture it getting more and more aglow, with this fuzzy, buzzy, white energy. So the first 3 breaths, in, up the right, down, out the left, 3 times. Then we're going to bring the energy on the outside of our body, up the front of our body on the in-breath, and down the back of our body on the out-breath, 3 times. All right. Now this 3rd time, on the breath in, picture it like wrappings of a mummy, but it's going to start at your feet and go around and around and around and around and around and around up to the top on the in-breath. And that white light is going to go through the center of your body down to your feet on the out-breath. So the mummy breath and down through the core 3 times. Out, wrapping you like a mummy, and down your core. So then the final breath is up the core of your body, inside from your feet to your core, and then like a fountain, but it's going to be like an egg shape down to your feet. So out your head like a fountain, and then covering your body like an egg. And this is to bring this force of divinity or harmonizing force in an etheric eggshell, or popo is the Quechua word for like a ball of energy, a very specific defined space of energy. And so you can see why it's beneficial to know the Qabalistic Cross and to I believe it is beneficial to kind of interpret these two ways of performing the Kabbalistic cross, of facing the divine and being standing in the place of the divine, as a acknowledgement of the power of building this etheric egg of energy. So, in order to make this video not too long, I'm going to do this so you can see how it's done and hear how it's done and kind of get a sense of things. Also, it's one thing to say Ata or Ate or Malchuth, but to chant or vibrate these names of power are that's what we're going for. So if you're studying these names, I think it is perfectly fine, and others will say otherwise, but I think it is perfectly fine for you to say these names, especially with reverence or intent. But if you're actually going to practice this as a practice, I find it's best to understand how to chant or vibrate these words, these names. And even if you're not comfortable using a different language and your native language is English and you want to say thou art, the kingdom, the glory, the power forever to creation. To creation is my interpretation of Amen. There's a bunch. So moted be is a very common one. It's going to be more powerful than if you just mindlessly say it like a congregation. If you were to go, thou art the kingdom, the power, the glory forever to creation. You know, if you want to do the English, that's perfectly fine. Intoning it or vibrating it will add power to what you're doing and emotion and energy to what you're attempting to achieve. All right. Thank you very much. Hate Malkut Vegadula Vegabura Leolam Amen. Ate Malchus Vegabura Vegadula Le Thank you for joining me. I hope to see you in a moment in Love Part 2.